We Happy Few starts out with us taking newspaper articles that are coming down in capsules inside tubes, and we're using a redactor in order to either black out articles that aren't of a happy mindset or approve them. I'm not really sure why we're looking through past newspaper clippings or where they go from here. If people still do read the newspaper, you'd think they'd be fresh off the press and not something that's dated years back. Unless, while you're on the happy pill, you don't really take notes of the day and just read the good stuff to make your day an even happier one? That's the only thing that I can think of. We come across one article titled Hastings Brothers Win Scrap Gathering Prize, which brings us into kind of a flashback situation with one of the boys yelling the name Arthur, which is us. So apparently we got separated from Percival while people were boarding a train.
Arthur, where are you? Arthur! Where did you go? Arthur! Arthur!
At this, we have the choice to either take joy or remember. If you choose Take Joy, you'll get the achievement Snug as a Bug on a Drug, and the game will end. If you choose Remember, the game will continue, and so we're going to pretend you chose this option. Time goes by, and one of our coworkers comes in after a prolonged silence and reminds us someone's birthday party is today, one that they've got a piñata for. She picks up the joy pill we tossed on the ground, asking if we've forgotten to take it, and we lie so disastrously that one has to be happy that people in joy aren't that quick to read emotions very well. Our power cell becomes depleted, making us look for another one in the room, the whole time being watched by this lady. This also sets up the idea that in the future we'll be needing power cells in order to activate machines. I guess they're the equivalent of oversized batteries. Once you place the new one in, you can start using the redactor again. It doesn't matter if you approve or black out the wrong things, the game won't really call you out on it as a negative impact, but if you get all the articles correct, you'll earn the achievement Employee of the Month. After you run out of articles, you can move around. At this point, you notice that you can look inside a variety of things, and yes, this is one of those games where not every cabinet and desk and what have you will have something in it. And if they do have something in it, they sometimes won't have something of worth. While you're in this building, you won't be able to loot any items that'll help you in the future, but you will notice that some things are locked, making me think that we'll return to this place, maybe? That or it's telling you you won't be able to open everything you come across, which is another valid point if you don't have the appropriate tools. There are different notes and letters that you can pick up throughout the building to kind of get a feel for certain people if you feel like snooping. You might come across the characters later, dead or alive, or you might just get a small amount of backstory. Some of the letters you get inside Clive's room are a letter from Miss Bing, which reads, Dear Mr. Burtwhistle, it is so thoughtful of you to suggest how best to rearrange the department. I am always grateful for suggestions from junior staff of how best to do my job as director. However, I am afraid that it would be destabilizing to swap your office with that of Mr. Hastings. Fortunately, turnover in this department is high. If Prue doesn't return soon, I don't see why you couldn't have her office. In the meantime, I suggest you pop another Joy and you'll feel the sunshine on your face, whether you have a window or not. All the best, Victoria Bing, Director. And then the second note, handwritten letter, which reads, Dear Director Bing, one of your employees is a subversive and may even be a downer. I overheard him in the commissary telling a friend that he thinks that his job redacting old articles is silly. And what's so scary about the truth? He is very tall and slim, with black hair and brown eyes and glasses. I know I should have asked his name, but I am a naturally shy woman, and... Which leaves us, Arthur, saying at the very bottom, and there it leaves off. A shy woman, are you, Clive? Or just a nasty, manipulative schemer? And if you use his redactor and sabotage his work properly, you'll get the Enjoy the View achievement. Once we head to the birthday party room where we get to beat the crap out of a piñata that isn't really a piñata at all, joy obviously skews our way of perceiving things, and since we're off it, we can see what's really in front of us. We get chased out into a sewer area because nobody likes a downer, thus ending Arthur's intro and earning us the achievement Downer. When we wake up, we'll go into the only area we can that provides us with different loot and different areas to look for loot in. Like I said, not every place has something, and when you do pick up loot, keep in mind you only have so much capacity to carry things. So hoarders like me who loot absolutely everything shouldn't do it in We Happy Few. You won't need to. It's all about holding and crafting the items you're actually going to need, and everything else is kind of extra baggage. I don't think there's even any way to sell items in the game, but if there is, it's a bit later, as the first portion of the game just has a lot of homeless downers that can't even think of a good comeback to what you say to them.
Have you been sleeping all right?
It's best not to fight if you can help it. Shove them away and just run as fast as you can.
In this underground area we're in, we can acquire the following notes. What were you thinking? Which reads, "Well, Arthur, you've gone and done it, haven't you? Not only rather spectacularly quit your job, but you're a downer now. The townsfolk will unleash the hounds, or they would, if we hadn't eaten them 20 years ago. The wastrels do not seem terribly friendly. I hope they aren't really cannibals. Oh, God, I'm one of them now, aren't I? I've got to get out of Wellington Wells. I've got to get over the bridge and off the islands. Which means I've got to go back into the parade district, don't I? Which I was just chased out of. Brilliant. Q. What in dog's name were you thinking? A. Percy. I saw his picture, from just before we put them all on the train. God, all that horrible grinding steel. And the screams. How he must hate me. Why did I tell the Jerrys I was already 13? They were only off by 10 days. Why didn't I keep my mouth shut and get on the train and go off to Germany with him like I promised him? I can't remember. But I promised him. That's got to mean something. I've got to go find Percy, wherever he is, and make sure he's okay. P.S. How long have we been eating rats? Tie a string is the second note that reads, From Jim Watt, Chief Engineer. Dear Rupert, are you quite certain Teddy's off his joy? Perhaps he merely forgot. You've got to look after your mates, man. Have you tried tying a string around his finger? That always helps me. Anyway, I can't reassign Teddy because I haven't got a replacement. All the juniors are off at Scargill. The subsidence has been severing all sorts of connections, and modeling must flow. I really appreciate your sticking by your post. If we don't do our duty, who are we? But try the string around the finger. I feel certain you will manage the situation. All my best, Jimmy. Diary of Prudence Holmes, which reads, Was this a mistake? It seems so clever to disappear first, rather than trying to brazen my way across the bridge. After enough joy, they'd forget they'd ever known a Prudence Holmes. Beastly Clyde would take my office, and they'd forget anyone else was ever in it. But now that I'm here, I wonder, should I put my trust in Mr. Kite? And where are his bloody instructions? In the abandoned house? Yes, but which abandoned house? They're all abandoned. And how to deal with all these wastrels? My God, they look like something out of Dante. We chased someone out whenever they wouldn't take their joy, but we never really thought about where they went. I knew we chased them out when joy made them sick, but I didn't know it was here, to starve and weep and remember. I assumed they were sent to a sanatorium, a decent hospital. But I suppose that's what I wanted to believe. We're all complicit. We know without knowing and don't want to remember, so we don't. My God, I can't wait to get to the mainland. And if you remember, Prudence was one of the offices that we couldn't open. So we did work with her, and she just randomly disappeared. At some point, we're met with a locked door which will require us to make a lockpick. For this game, you only have to make a useful tool once in order for one to keep being made when you need it, as long as you have the required materials. So if you make one lockpick here and come across something else that's locked in the future, the game will automatically craft a lockpick for you, instead of you needing to do so manually each and every time. This is the same for other tools as well. When you come across your first deceased body, there are the options of searching and carrying. Most corpses have a weapon on them if nothing else, but sometimes they'll have other components you might be able to use. The carry option is obviously a hint that you'll be able to move bodies out of sight if you happen to kill someone in a public setting. It's in this area that you'll come across a golden mask for the Promises memory.
Are they going to hurt us?
No one's going to hurt you, Percy. I promise.
But have they hurt the city?
I don't think they'll blow anything else up.
Why?
Because we surrendered, I hope.
Well, what are we going to do, Arthur?
We're brothers. We'll look out for each other.
You'll find memories all throughout the world in different places. They offer glimpses of the past for some backstory. You can find another note labeled Diary of Theodore Minor. It reads, September 18th. I look into the lights like the doctors ordered. I could swear I see shapes in there, moving around. Like shadows, but made of light. And there's shadows all around, always around the corner. He keeps turning lights off, says he wants to save the bulbs. He's trying to make me think I'm going blind, isn't he? How he loves to feel superior. September 19th. Took 2 joy just so I could stand his ugly face. Why won't it work? Has he swapped them out for something? Paracetamol? Jelly beans? Jesus, we haven't had jelly beans since... Have we ever had jelly beans? September 20th. I hate when he talks in that slow, condescending voice, like I'm a child. I'm not a child, am I? I don't even know any children, obviously. Jesus, what is wrong with my joy? September 22nd. There he is, scritching away in the corner. Scribble, 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 Mr. Gibbon. And then the whoosh of the pneumatic tube. He's blaming it all on me what happened, isn't he? He says it's his missus. I don't believe he's still got a missus. With his big mossy teeth, I bet she went on holiday long ago. Was I married once? How did it end? I get an awful feeling in my stomach. I'm not sure I'm going to enjoy remembering. Something is all fucked up about the joy, and he won't send me home. We've got to stay here. Duty. September 25th. I can hear him crunching in the dark. It isn't rats. It's his big mossy teeth. I lie awake and picture squeezing his throat till he turns the color of my carrots he bloody well stole. He's plotting something. September 28th. Let him try to weasel out of this one. I saw him writing those lies. Reassign me, Willie. Off my joy, am I? I'm bloody well tripling up and he knows it. October 6th. We've come to the end of our time. We've come to the end of our time. We've come to the end of our time. Yeah, one might say he's only a little bit crazy. Nearby is a pneumatic stash, which is a storage unit that you can place all your crafting components into, and they'll be used whenever you want to craft something that uses those components. Other things you place in here can only be used if they're actually on your person. So if you have extra stuff that you know you won't be using right away, but you'll need for later, it's best to put them in here so they aren't taking up your inventory space. These stashes are in every bunker you come across. You'll also be opening up a locked door where you'll get jumped by someone and will have to enter combat. It's really weird since this is a forced combat situation, but no tutorial on how to fight actually comes up. But the things you're capable of doing are throwing a punch, blocking, and shoving. Not to mention you have a stamina bar, and whatever you decide to do does take a chunk of stamina that slowly refills while you're not doing anything. If you take the time to notice, this guy's name is Theodore Minor, whom we recently required a note from his diary. When you're inside the room, you're going to want to look up for a vent that you can crawl into, and this is the game's way of telling you that you should always look up in case there's something that you'll otherwise miss. Sometimes there's a balcony with a chest on it and you're only able to see it if you do look up. There are things that are pretty easy to miss, honestly, and while they may not be crucial things to your gameplay or moving forward, some items could really help you out. Before you leave the bunker, you can pull a switch on the wall that will activate a fast travel system. Once you've activated the switch for more than this bunker, you can easily navigate from one to another. But unfortunately, you'll need to be inside of a bunker in order to fast travel to another area. So while it's a perk, it's also a little annoying. The next section we're going to talk about is the open world. Here's where you'll notice a lot of different things, the main one being, aside from side quests, there's really not a whole lot to do. And I can attest to this because after I've done the whole bunker ordeal, which comes later, instead of going to the next quest area, I decided to have a look around the dark sections of the map that I hadn't been to yet. Honestly, I didn't think it'd be so big toward the beginning, I thought maybe the map would be sectioned off depending where you're at in the quest line, but I continued traveling southwest. You can find a quest here and there, dig spots, which are marked by finding specific notes of them, as well as possible notes in mailboxes and the occasional house that might have things inside. But overall, there's really not much to do. The Downers won't have an actual conversation with you, and they're only around during the day. At night, guards patrol, so you either avoid them or go into combat when they see you. It's not really worth exploring, aside from the odds and ends, and it's best to just basically keep to the quests. I can't say for sure right now, but I'm sure as you continue, more things will become available out in the open world, such as the beehives I couldn't mess with. And while the game allows you to openly explore, aside from finding hidden treasures, it's like, why bother? You get more story from the main quest, after all. Even so, while you are out here, you'll notice icons in the upper left of your screen signifying your hunger, thirst, health, and fatigue. Basically, you don't have to help yourself to basic needs, but it will lower certain portions of your stats, stamina being one of them. But sometimes these things are hard to come by if you're not actively searching everything you come across, especially water. You can find water pumps and sinks to drink straight from, but also canteens that you can fill with water in case you can't get water any other way. With food, I'm kind of disappointed you can't cook anything, unless that comes later, because there are campfires around and you do get certain meat that can be cooked and become a bit healthier for you, like raw meat for instance. Beds are sort of scattered around, mostly in houses, but sometimes outside. As far as your health, it's really only a matter of crafting healing balm to keep it up when you get into scuffles. I suppose it's a typical survival game in this sense, without the downside of death. Back to the main portion of the quest here. If you wander through town, you might come across phone booths that have a phone ringing inside of them. By answering, you're left with listening to an obviously cryptic message that you don't really understand. There was another point in the same area when the phone was ringing, but I wasn't able to get to it because I had to go all the way around to where it was, but by the time I got to it, it was no longer ringing. So they might be time sensitive or distance sensitive. Wait too long or travel too far from it and it'll just cut off. Unlike in the game Ghostwire Tokyo, where a phone call was crucial to the continuation of the game's story. That doesn't seem to be the case here. When you finally meet up with the people in town, you're chased into a church because they see you as some elitist city dweller while they live in rubble without a dime to their name. By exchanging socks for information, you find out you can change your clothes to blend in with the residents by tearing up your suit. Alternatively, there's a suit you can craft for when you're not among the downers and instead need to blend in with people who take their joy, but that's for later. In the church, you'll find another memory called Lies that'll give you a bit of backstory and how Percy will sometimes take the blame for doing something that Arthur did because he's slow and won't get punished for things that Percy would otherwise be punished for.
I lied for you today at 4:15.
That's not good, Percy. You're rubbish at lying.
I was a good liar today.
Who did you lie to?
Mrs. Boyle,
Mrs. Boyle came here?
her face was all red, and her voice was like Mom when she's angry. And I thought that you would ask me why she's angry.
Why was she angry?
I decided that she was angry because you were up in a tree next to Sally Boyle's bedroom window last night at 8:15 p.m.
Oh, bloody hell. What exactly did he say?
I told her that I was in the tree.
Oh, Percy, that's very bad.
No, Arthur, it's brilliant.
Why is it brilliant?
She won't make me be in trouble because I'm slow.
You didn't have to do that.
She told me not to do it again, so I promised I wouldn't.
Thank you.
I love you, Arthur.
I love you too.
I feel like the memories are really good for building the relationship up between the two brothers, while also making us look shitty for leaving Percy behind on the train. When you leave the church, everyone's bummed that they no longer need to beat you up because you look like them, but you also get a tutorial on status indicators for NPCs that'll tell you whether they're aggressive toward you, if they've noticed you but not fully, or if you're in the clear and they haven't noticed you at all yet. The red triangle also reveals their health, so the more you hit them, the more the red within the triangle depletes. If we head in the direction of the train station, we're stopped by someone who says we'll need an electric cart and a power cell in order to get through the gate. We ask if there's a Bobby around we can steal from, but this guy will trade, because you can't actually steal from anyone, only sneak up behind and stealth attack them. which is kind of like stealing from them, but they're unconscious at the time of you looting their bodies, so it doesn't really count. Anyway, we had to steal back his medals from some guys in a camp, and in exchange he'll give us the card we need. Which means we had to travel to the camp where the thieves are. The front gate's locked, which tells us in the future not everywhere is going to have a lock readily available to lockpick, meaning we have to look for other ways in. The only way to get in is through the back entrance and down the elevator, where we're kind of ambushed and have to stow away all our belongings before they allow us to go further down. There's a note for head boy rules on the wall you can read. It says, for little George's initiation, he has to 1. Win an arena fight with a tourist. No fair fighting wastrel weaklings. 2. Fresh meat only. Haha. Steal food not looted from a dead body. 3. Sneak into the village and steal a bobby hat. Maybe make it the red bobby hat. That's a fight I'd like to see. Haha. 4. Clean my leather jacket. 5. Stop being a dull wanker. Oops, I guess little George might not be head boy material after all. Haha. I went back and listened to that haha and it just makes me laugh still. You're welcome. At this point, we're forced to fight, and it's a coworker named Danny Defoe that we used to work with. Apparently he stole our work and pretended it was his, then we got him fired. Seems he holds a bit of a grudge now. You can choose either a bludgeoning weapon or a stabbing weapon. One will render the opponent unconscious, and the other will outright kill them. Which means I suppose you could go for a pacifist run if you wanted to. But at this moment, no matter what weapon you choose, Danny will always pick the lethal one. I mean, he really holds a grudge. Here is where you get the tutorial on fighting, and again it's weird that it's at this point because you've technically already had your first battle with someone after being chased out of your workplace during the start of the game. After he's down, they'll send out 2 females to fight you, and once you get rid of them, you can use the elevator once again, except you're dropped into a pit that you're supposed to not make your way out of according to all the dead bodies around you. Except you can get out, because you're smarter than they were. And when you do get out of the underground pit, you're forced into taking your first skill, which is Sweet Dreams, an ability that allows you to choke people out when you're not seen. This can happen whether you sneak behind them or sneak up to them while they're asleep, making it easier to steal from people at night rather than in the day due to them being in bed for the most part. This is the first main area where you'll learn a lot about stealth and distractions. There are multiple items you can use to create distractions, such as a bottle for creating sound, but they don't always go directly to the source. In games like Assassin's Creed, the enemy will go right up to where a noise was made to look around, but in We Happy Few, they sort of stand a bit away, making you have to really deliberate where to throw things so you can actually come up behind people properly. Although while that might be annoying, they do seem to stand and stare for a bit of time before returning to the normal position, giving you ample time to do your thing. In this area, you'll need to find both the medals as well as the power cell in order to be able to leave. And before you completely leave, you find all the items you'd had on you before that you can grab before making your way out into another part of the camp, where you'll learn to hide in tall grass. It bothers me a bit that you can only hide in specific bushes with yellow flowers, because some bushes are high enough to conceal you as well. Not only that, but when you're crouched down in bushes, it's sort of hard to tell where the bushes actually end before you accidentally step out of them. And maybe a little hard to see where someone is around you despite their footprints showing up while you're stealthed. When you leave this area, the guy is actually at the church in town instead of back at the area where you needed the key card. But once you've traded, go back to the bridge and you'll learn that the revolver actually detects people who have not taken their joy. I'm not sure what the end result would be for a downer because the contraption that comes up from the alarm seems to blow up. Would we have got electrocuted? Would the bobbies have somehow been called and able to track us from where we were? We mentioned getting spanked, but I don't think it's the spanking you and I are thinking of. Approaching the destination of the train station will result in a small cutscene with men trying to blow up a portion of the building because some guy at the top of the structure is hoarding meat, apparently. The man at the top throws a bottle of what I presume is scotch onto a man's head, which knocks him out, and the guy with the explosive ends up blowing himself up. It's all very Monty Python. When you're able to move, you'll basically be going around taking out the enemies in order to reach the train station. This is probably the main place so far where I've actually used trash cans in order to hide, and from someone who might have either glimpsed me or caught sight of an unconscious body. I had stated before that I didn't know whether the AI was smart enough to witness you jumping into a trash can or something like that. It turns out they're not really that clever. Obviously, if they're right behind you and you jump into a trash can, you actually can't hide somewhere because they're watching you. But if you go around a corner and hop in a trash can and they just don't see it happen, there you go. You can hide from them. And it takes like, I want to say maybe 45 seconds, something like that, for them to forget about you, basically. After reaching what looks like the train station, you fall through boards on the floor. We have the worst luck because we're downers, right? Now, there's a dead person near us as soon as we get up, and they've got a name on them like every other person you come across, but I'm just now wondering why. There are specific notes in this area you can find, and I thought maybe his name would come up in one of the papers, or we'd be able to link him to something, except I couldn't with the notes given. I'm not the only one that thinks this might be weird that every single character we come across has a name, right? I mean, in reality, everyone has a name, but how do we know everyone's name? Even when we come across a corpse, they're not going to have a wallet on them with their name in it because they've got nothing to their name. They're officially nobodies. Sure, it sucks to be nameless, but these people are downers, or wastrels is another name for them, I guess, and their lives suck. Technically, to every other person in the game, especially those who are on Joy, they don't deserve a name. So why bother giving everyone a name? Unless they're actually important. A name that will stand out to us if we come across a clue with somewhere nearby. At this point, the names are all there and they blend in with one another, so we don't really think about looking twice at them or committing them to memory. Which means if we do come across someone who might come up again in a note or otherwise, we may totally miss it. It just seems kind of pointless. Going back to the room we're in, we get a flashlight to help us see the dark areas around us. I don't know how much the flashlight will help in the future. I can only assume it will be crucial in certain parts of the game, because why would we get an item that's only good for a single area? Then again, as I say that, I think back to a variety of games that give you a helpful item that's only use is for a short segment before it's taken away. So maybe I'm wrong and this is a short-lived item. In looking for the switch replacement, you come across 3 different notes. These notes are labeled, "Dear Darling Sebastian," "Happy Birthday Sebastian," and "Sebastian, we are worried." I won't read them here, but basically Mom and Dad had their son hiding out here and were coming around to give him food rations, but suddenly he disappeared. I looked around thinking I might find the body of the boy, but I didn't see any sign of him, just his uneaten birthday cake and a pile of his clothes, which makes me think maybe he did wander out of his hidey hole, having been bored of doing nothing but hiding and got caught because of it. The only other option is he died, except there's no body, and even with the rats running around, they wouldn't need his bones. On a wall, there's a note with a list of names and dates. We don't know Sebastian's last name, but there is a Sebastian on the list. Sebastian Dainty, to be exact. And everyone's listed with their birthdays. They were possibly keeping track of how old kids were in order to send them away in a train or not, which is the whole story behind Percy's disappearance and I need to find him. But none of the names stood out to me otherwise. And I'm not really even sure if that Sebastian is the same as in the notes, as there's 2 other names that share the same last name as Dainty. They can't be his parents because the dates are too close together, and the notes never mention any other siblings. So what the hell happened to this kid? As soon as we get out of this place, we're met with a character named Ollie, who's sort of lost a bit of his mind, but I don't know if it's from the war or just segregating himself from everyone else. He comes at us with a weapon as it takes us a hot minute to finally convince him who we are before he bludgeons us to death. I don't think we actually convince him, as more he suddenly realizes it's us after ignoring our shouts.
Ollie, it's Arthur! Well, why didn't you see that before?
He talks to someone named Margaret, who he actually seems to consider whatever input she has to give him, despite her being nothing more than a portrait sitting on a table. After looking at the picture, we remember her from school and that when she was supposed to get on the train, she disappeared. It's weird that nobody would talk about it, but maybe Ollie took to her somehow, as a father figure or something more complicated? Did he help her escape the train situation and become infatuated with her in the process? Would that mean he lost his mind when she died? If she died. but still thinks she's here just because he can see her face? It's a lot of speculation. In order to get to the train station to look for Percy, we'll need to enter the parade, and that's going to be difficult, but not to worry, because both Ollie and Margaret have a plan. We help Ollie get what he wants from the old German camp where a bunch of army guys wander about with bayonets, and they'll help us get out of Wellington Wells. We just have to turn off the power. Once again, Ollie will help us get through the sentries blocking the path to the camp. We just have to meet up with him at the bunker. Take note that after certain events or checkpoints, we do learn how to craft new materials for future use. I think that's something that could be easily missed if you're not looking in the lower left corner. When you get through the sentry area, there's a spot you can listen to a guy tell a story regarding an elephant to his mates that are passed out, but he's too drunk and woozy to notice.
You see, he's grown up with that elephant his whole life. And he don't know how to do any other job except sit on that elephant and tell it to pick up a log and carry it over there. But the elephant's taken the life of a man, you see. A coolie, but a man. And the moat's crying and jabbering and cool as a summer breeze. The general chambers around, puts it right through the elephant's heart. And the wind just goes out of it. It just kneels down and sighs. And then it's gone. And all the villages are running to get their knives because it's free meat. Now see, a lesser man would have trembled at the thought of shooting an elephant that's just calmly standing there eating leaves. He might have missed the heart. Some civilian in Burma had to shoot a rogue elephant and he had to practically empty a whole magazine into the poor thing, and it was half an hour of the time. But the general makes a tough choices, see. So don't you armchair generals tell me what you would have done. Just follow orders and we'll win the next war. The general's promised, all right?
Once you've listened to the best ridiculous story ever, there's a ladder you can climb up for the memory battleship.
You can't go on it.
They said I could.
Well, of course the Germans said you could go on it. I'm saying you can't.
I've never been on a battleship.
But that's not the point. We hate the Germans, and that battleship is part of the reason the Germans are our lords and masters right now. Do you remember when they came over in all the little boats?
Do you mean in 1942 or in 1943?
Do you want people to spit on Mum when she goes to the market?
She doesn't go to the market since 1945.
But look, this is just one of those things. I can't explain every single detail of everything to you.
Are you mad at me?
I'm not.
You're not?
I mean, yes, I am mad. I was mad, but now I'm not. Look, please don't go on the Bismarck. It will get you into trouble, which means I'll then be in trouble.
Alright.
You won't go?
I couldn't go without you, anyway.
For once, that's a relief.
On your way to the bunker is another memory you'll find called Up a Tree.
Arthur! Arthur? You get down from that tree before I chop it down.
Do you know why they're registering us?
The Germans love their lists, that's all.
They're taking us away on a train to Germany. You know about it, don't you?
Who told you that? It's ridiculous.
Oh, you all know about it, just not the kids.
Look, they've got cows there. It's not going to be powdered milk. They might even have chocolate.
Oh, chocolate makes it all better.
They've got tanks, Arthur. Or haven't you noticed? How are we supposed to argue with tanks?
I don't want to go to Germany.
It's only for a little while, I think.
I don't want to be a hostage.
Calm down. Let's have some tea.
Oh, all right, I'll come down. I think I might be stuck, actually.
At the bunker, Ollie will tell you what you need to do, which is to basically break into the general's office. Oh, and about those bayonets. While they might not have any bullets in them, the men can still very much stab you with them, so this is almost a purely stealth mission with possible bursts of running away in the foreseeable future. You can pick up Ollie's moonshine recipe, which doesn't give much of a recipe, but you'll be able to combine the ingredients when you come across the distillery area of the camp. In order to grab some of the ingredients, you'll need to enter a poisonous area, which a gas mask will help with. I hope you had that gas mask. I can't remember where I found mine, but I'm going to assume it was in an easy to see location since they're pretty hard to come by for now. And it's really only good for this place here so far, a location that you can skip if you wanted to and come back to later if you remember. Basically, Ollie's moonshine becomes sick-up tea that you can craft for when you have food poisoning and need to throw up. While it's not important, it's something that's useful. Whether you learn that recipe or not, head into camp where there's a cutscene of you falling into a tank, which is actually just paper mache. Imagine how pissed off we are. At this point, we make our way to the general's tent, but can also sneak into other buildings. It's wise to note these doors do have locks on them, and it's best to engage the locks while you're inside. I'm pretty sure enemies will come barging into places whether a door is shut or not, but I don't think they'd be able to come in if the door was locked. It's not a theory that I've tested up to this point, but I don't see why they would give us the option to lock a door if that wasn't the case. In one of the buildings, you'll find the memory Scouts.
Oh, I can't go, Percy. I feel terrible. I keep wanting to throw up, but I never quite can.
But we're supposed to tell. We're supposed to tell the scouts about the plants across the river.
Actually, you're supposed to tell the scouts while I nod sagely.
I can't hear you.
You're not sick, Percy. Just go and tell the scouts about the plants.
I can't talk to them.
Do you think they're gonna be nasty to you without me?
No.
Well, I'm vomiting.
I want to make my brother some tea.
Are you gonna just not show up? Alright, look. I'll phone them. Just remember to turn the flame off this time. Alright?
In the general's office, there's an alarm you can pull to put everyone on high alert outside. I don't know the purpose of doing this because you're inside, you're safe, and if you happen to leave, then everyone's in a tizzy looking for an intruder, meaning they aren't following their set path anymore. They're a bit more chaotic to where they wander around and look, so it's easier to get caught when you leave a stealth position. There's a bit of a puzzle to go through in this office in order to get what you need, and it involves piano sheet music that you'll be playing on the piano. After that, a hidden area will open with a hatch inside, as well as a key on the wall. You can't use the hatch until you finish the mission you're on right now, which is a hint in itself as to how you're going to get out of this camp in the end. Once in the generator room, where you shut the power off, the alarm will go off, and like I said before, everyone is a bit erratic in their search for an intruder, and so you're going to either do a combination of stealth and running, or just full-on running back to the hatch you were at. When you get back to Ollie, he's having a conversation with a couple of bottles that are taped up to power cells. I have no idea what they're supposed to be. Molotov cocktails? Either way, he's still as kooky as before. Not to mention, at the realization that the tanks were fake, we're also met with the truth that we lied to get off the train. Which is weird, because if they fell for the lie of a child, couldn't anyone have just lied about their age? Or how their birthday was written wrong? Like, how did Arthur get away with that when nobody else tried? Ollie gives you what looks like a headlamp, but since neither one of us knows what it actually is or does, we're going to use it to convince the Bobbies we're there to fix the bridge. Since bringing an item that looks important might be enough to persuade them, you're telling the truth. At this point, I did a lot of exploring of the map before heading to the proper destination. Turns out, aside from a side quest, hatches, and reading in notes and post boxes, there's not a whole lot to do. And I spent a couple hours scouring areas, mind you. It wasn't a huge waste of time, but it also felt like a pretty big waste of time.